So basically, when I'm doing the work, sometimes I am like so in the situation and experiencing the situation that I get stuck. Well, not stuck, but I would kind of would like to get stuck in the feeling when I'm not like who I am without the thought itself. You know, I experience like who would you be without the thought deeply that I don't want to get out of it. And it's like, why would I turn it around if that is going to make me go back to the situation again? So it's like,
Uh,
I kind of feel like, why should I keep going if I already feel like this is the place where I need to be at? In a way.
that's a great question. It's a great experience. Yes, I can relate to that too. Question four takes you somewhere. Like it changes your experience of the situation already, because you're you've basically transcended the experience of that situation. You've gone beyond that situation, and now you're seeing it in a completely in a different view. So this is it. Why would I want to go on to a turnaround? It's a very logical question. And of course, you don't have to go on to a turnaround, but here's the value of a turnaround. What the turnarounds do is they ground that experience back into the kind of everyday life again. So that experience of transcendence, that experience of who would you be without the thought, is very beautiful. Um, but it's almost like you're closed your eyes, you're meditating. It's like this free floating feeling. And what the turnarounds do is they take that openness there, and then they look. It's like in asking to look for examples of how the opposite could be true, how the turnaround could be true, and it's getting into the details of life again. It's starting to say, okay, can you find that freedom that you just tasted in question four? Can you find it in the mundane existence of the details of the situation? And what happens is, if you can find examples like that, it really grounds that experience. So now you have the mundane, you know, details of the situation, and you have that experience of freedom coexisting together. And there's this place of like integration that happens. And it's not just I feel great and I feel free. It's like I feel great and free in the boundaries of that particular detailed kind of situation. And when I find those examples, they become like a reference point for me. Like my mind can remember those. I found them, and I carry those with me. And so they become like the little reminders of that question for experience, so that I can access it anytime. I can be involved in this kind of situation in the future, and I'm dealing with the situation directly, but I'm not overwhelmed with it. I still have a connection to that place of freedom. So the turnarounds are for integration. It's just like we were talking about earlier before this session, how you can live alone, and it's like so easy, and you can really enjoy living alone. But there's something important about living with people too, or being around people, because of the challenges they bring, that makes it forces you to integrate that's being with yourself with being with others. So the turnarounds do the same thing. They integrate that that awareness of freedom, the awareness that the statement, who would I be without the thought, into the the particulars of life, and that can be very helpful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I kind of want to do a follow-up question on that one. And it's about the turnaround specifically. Like, in your experience, is it better to come to the turnarounds with the feeling, like the having the feeling alive of how how would you be without the thought, on or when you are believing that thought? Because I noticed
Aha.
there's like a difference between those, but I can't quite figure out like what should be your mind heading towards or like focusing on when doing that and you're actually experiencing it?
A good question. I'm not sure I even know the answer, or if there is an answer. But say a little more. What is your experience with like if you're coming at it from who would you be without the thought versus coming at it with when you're believing the thought?
So the difference I feel is like when I'm believing the thought, everything is fresh, is very emotional. Like I can feel it like if it's happening right now, even though it happened like, I don't know, 2 years ago or whatever the time could be. But then when I jump into the who would you be without the thought, like all that emotion kind of like goes away because I'm like I'm set to understand like what is exactly going on. And when I move from there to the turnarounds, like if I go back to the initial point when I'm believing the thought, I feel like I'm going backwards in a way instead of like keep moving forward when I'm not without the thought, just like okay,
Mm-hmm.
like leaving that experience and looking at it from that perspective, not having those emotions alive and all that kind of stuff. It's like it feels different than when I kind of go backwards and I feel the emotions of believing the thought and then doing the turnarounds. I don't know if I
Mm-hmm.
make myself clear with that. It's a little bit weird,
Yeah,
but that's
I
kind of
think
what
I
I feel.
follow you. For me, the purpose of the questions 1 through 4, are to just loosen my attachment to that belief a little bit. So I go through these questions. Is it true? Can I absolutely know it's true? And I start sometimes finding that it's not even true. So something starts to loosen there. And then how do I react? I see what an effect it has on me. And then who would I be without the thought? I see how much freer I would be. And I'm finding a little more looseness to this idea, this thought that I'm questioning. And then all that is building up to the turnaround, which is when I'm in a looser hold on that thought, I can then start to turn it around and look and see if other sides of it are true, or if something is truer, or if there's two things both true. I can look at it because I have a flexibility there. if I just if I don't go through the 4 questions and I'm just in that emotional place, I'm holding the thought like this. And so with that tight grip, I try to turn it around and it's like, oh, I can't turn it around because it's so tight. I'm so attached to it. I'm so stuck there. And this is the problem where sometimes people will just say, take a stressful thought and just say, hey, turn it around. It doesn't work so well because it's just like, turn it around. What do you mean? I'm gripping this from my life. and I can't turn it around. Or if I try to, I hurt myself with it or something. But the questions soften the attachment to the thought so that I can start to play with it and I can start to turn it around. So, but when you like, that's a process that you go through. Question 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like a gradual loosening of attachment that's happening. You don't have to go back and get reattached to where you were in the beginning, because then again you're going to be having trouble to turn it around, right? You're stuck again. So allow that softening to happen. Those 4 questions there are opening up my attachment. I'm becoming less attached. Take the results of those questions, that feeling of more openness, and then step into the turnaround and explore it in that open place. Don't have to go back and shut myself down. Now, one thing that what I do like to encourage you to do is to take hold the situation. The situation is the same, but the situation was there even in question 4. That was still there. Who would you be without the thought in that situation? So turn it around. Can you find examples how that turnaround is as true in that situation? So the situation holds you all the way through, But in the beginning, the situation was super stressful. And as you go through the questions, it becomes less stressful. And as you keep going into the turnarounds, it can become even less stressful. It can just be completely not stressful. So that's the progression. It's not like you have to go back into stress. You just hold the situation, but take the benefit of the opening that's happened as you've gone through the 4 questions and started to loosen the attachment a bit.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, because I was feeling, if I go through the turnarounds without the attachment to the emotion, I kind of feel like I wasn't doing it right in a way. Like, because like, oh, I don't see like it makes too much sense anymore because I'm not attached to it. So I need to go back and hold it so I can feel like, oh, I'm doing the turnarounds the right way. That's kind of what I was
Right.
feeling.
Yeah. No, you're doing it the right way. Like the turnarounds are destroying that concept, and maybe that this concept is already almost destroyed from question 4 or from question 3 or question 2 or question 1. It's slowly getting unraveled through these questions. And that now you're getting to the turnarounds. You're doing the final blows. You're like, okay, boom, that's out and that's out. And this negates that. And this is evidence against this. And you start to put the nails in the coffin, completely finished the story, and then ship it out. It's done. It's not always that cut and dried. Obviously, sometimes you may need to work something many times, but that's what the turnarounds are there for. That's what I mean by integration. They're finishing the job. Like you started to loosen the thing, now you actually finish it, and you don't have to go back into the stress to do that. You don't have to go and get all stressed again to do the turnarounds. In fact, it's hard to do the turnarounds when you're stressed. So just see what you find. You're already open. Okay, how could it be true that the exact opposite is truer than what you were thinking before? Yeah.